The year started like a bad taste you can't spit out. Ice on the curbs, salt dust on every parked car, job gone, rent due, and my mother's pills lined up like a countdown on the kitchen counter. I took whatever I could find until a buddy texted a lead that felt like a dare. Night watch, cold line foods, edge of town, by the river and the rail yard where the wind never quits. They didn't ask much. You breathe? You show up? Said the shift lead, a tall guy everyone called Mr. Harlan. He slid a ring of keys my way. Old man Carter'll walk you through it. He's on his way out. Old man Carter had that yellowed look of a man seasoned by midnight coffee and gas station cigarettes. He shuffled me down a long corridor of concrete block and buzzing lights and gave his sermon. Easy work if you don't overthink it, he went. Sit, watch your TV. Walk the loop every 2 hours. Don't mess with the freezer compressors. If a door's open that you swear you closed, close it again and keep moving. He paused, tapping a dented metal cabinet. Spare key to the freezer room's right here. You won't need it. Why's that? Because you don't want to need it, he said, and his mouth twitched like he'd almost smiled. The guard room was a closet with ambitions. A folding cot that had seen wars, a small desk, a microwave that ticked, a wall TV that pulled in a game show if the clouds behaved. The place smelled like old cardboard and lemon cleaner that had given up. First night, I walked the loop at midnight just like the sheet said. The storage aisles rose on both sides, pallets wrapped tight in plastic, the print on the cases like a faded tattoo. Beans, rice, boxed cookies, dog food. Every sound had an echo and some other sound riding under it, a seasick hum from the compressors on the far wall. Back in the guard room, I tried not to sleep and promptly did. Jerking awake felt like breaking water after being down too long. The TV was static. Something had clicked off, and in the sudden quiet came a different sound. A soft scrape, not close, deeper in. I checked my watch, 2:30-ish, which by night watch math is go look. The corridor stretched out thin and dim. The air had that dry, winter sting quality, but I could see my breath anyway, like the building had its own weather. When I reached the freezer wing, a chill moved through my coat sleeves even before I hit the door. The freezer door was cracked. Just a breath. Steel on steel. No draft, but the air was colder around it in a way your skin can count. I remembered the key. I remembered Carter's non-smile. I pushed the door in. Lights flickered a kind of pharmacy yellow. The rows of racks wore frost dust at the edges. My flashlight cut a sharp wedge through it all. At the far corner, where the plastic floor mats made a weary sound under your steps, I found it. A torn bag spilling sugar like a snowdrift, foil wrappers shining in a sad little pile, a carton of snack cakes with the cellophane peeled back, neat as you like. Rats, I told myself, big ones, but rats don't open wrappers. Rats chew. This was unwrapped, presented, eaten. When I came back to the guard room, Mr. Harlan was already on his way in. He yawned like a man who sleeps well. Something wrong? He asked. Freezer door was open, I said. Sugar everywhere. Wrappers. Like somebody was. Midnight munchies? He cracked a grin, then shut it down. We'll add traps tomorrow. New lock. Budget's not a magic trick, so don't expect cameras in there. You good? Yeah. He studied me for one beat more. You're Eli, right? Eli Marsh. Welcome to the graveyard, he said. Keep the lights on. The next night I brought company. An old USB camera I'd used to watch a stray raccoon on my mom's porch, a coil of cable, and a thrift store laptop that smelled like attic. I rigged the camera on the top shelf facing the freezer room's vent, a beat-up rectangle set high on the wall. Motion-triggered recording. No internet. Just a red dot when something moved. I set a plastic bowl on the metal prep table and laid out a small offering in a way I didn't want to call an offering. 2 oranges, a chocolate bar, a sleeve of cookies. The freezer hummed behind me like a choir who knew only one note. Back in the guard room, I pretended to read. The building creaked a little. The wind pulled at the cheap windows like it had a gripe with me personally. Every 30 minutes, I checked the laptop feed. Nothing. 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 except the faint bob of shadows when a train passed and headlight glare got in through the high windows nobody remembered were there. Around 4, I must have blinked wrong. The kind of blink that's a minute longer than a blink should be. A crack sound woke me, thin and hard, like a ruler being snapped across knuckles. I stood too fast, felt the blood leave my head, and grabbed the flashlight. The corridor to the freezer was colder than before. Static crawled along the back of my neck like a bad thought. At the door, I heard a sound I can name now and couldn't then. Chewing. Slow. Honest. The sound of something enjoying its work. My key jammed twice. Then the lock gave, and the door swung inward, heavy on its hinge. I sent the flashlight beam ahead like a scout. Wrappers everywhere. Cookie sleeve gutted. One orange gone. The bar reduced to foil and smears. And there, perched on the table like a shabby king, was a shape. Not big, just wrong. Arms too long, knees tucked too high. Skin the gray of wet cardboard, scalp smooth and pale. The head turned toward me in a slow, deliberate arc. The eyes weren't red so much as reflective, taking my light and bending it back with a reddish wink, like a cat in a roadside ditch. Its mouth was a slit full of small, crowded teeth, brown with chocolate. We hung there a second that had more time inside it than a second should hold. "Night watch," it said, except the voice didn't arrive from the mouth. It rode the room, the hum of the compressors, the whine in the lights, the thin breath from the vent, braided together into a single word that knew me. I didn't answer, couldn't. "Don't fuss." It went on, and the plastic bowl trembled as a wrapper skittered. Eating. If you've never tried to think while your entire body is trying to run, it's hard to explain. Every part of me wanted out. The part that stayed took notes. Skin like paper, hands like a child's drawing of hands, too many knuckles. Smell like sugar warmed on a stove too long. "You? What are you?" I managed, the head cocked in a listening way, like it was catching a voice I couldn't hear. "Been here," the room said. "Long time." Carter knew. Old man Carter. The spare key. "Don't mess with the compressors." He looked away. The voice layered. "We got along." I should have swung the flashlight or the chunky steel of my key ring or the long, dumb bravery of the moment. I didn't. I stepped back. The thing raised one hand and pinched a cookie like it was delicate work. It extended the other hand toward me, palm up, and for a heartbeat I had the insane thought it was offering me a gift. "Want?" the room asked, and every shelf seemed to lean in to hear my answer. I shook my head. My throat tried a sound that wasn't language. Some animal sound fell out instead. "Suit," the room said. The face of it didn't change. Maybe it couldn't. Maybe all its changes happened in air and steel and flicker. I backed to the door. The compressors pulsed. The lights blinked once, like an eye that had dust in it. I took that as permission and left, not fast, not slow, just that measured pace you use when you leave a bad dog alone. In the corridor, I locked the door with hands I couldn't quite feel. The key slipped once, scraped the plate, and skittered onto the floor. I picked it up. The hall seemed too long on the way back, as if the building had been pulled like taffy. In the guard room, the laptop showed what I expected and dreaded. Nothing. An empty frame of metal shelf and vent. The bowl on the table, a wrapper animating on its own, as if a draft played with it, then settling in a neat, polite coil. It's a strange thing to learn that cameras can be blind on purpose. I called Harlan. No answer. I stared at the phone like it owed me more than a dial tone. Through the small square window, the river wind pushed a film of snow across the loading dock in nervous lines. At 7, Harlan finally picked up. Sounded like coffee and disbelief. "You're not gonna believe me," I started. "Try me," he said. "Something's in the freezer," I told him. "It talks." He snorted, then stopped, like he'd heard something in my voice that wasn't a joke. "I'll be in by 9, he said. "Don't touch anything." I hung up and sat with my hands around a styrofoam cup of machine coffee that tasted like pennies. The wall clock ticked in a way I hadn't noticed it could. Across the hall, the freezer hummed on, steady as respiration. At 8:50, Old Man Carter's number lit my phone. I didn't remember giving it out or asking for his. I answered anyway. "You saw it," he said. No question mark. "Yeah." A long breath came over the line, and I could hear, faintly, a TV game show playing somewhere behind him. "Then you learned the only real rule," he said. "What's that?" "Don't make promises," he told me. "Not in there. Not about there." The line clicked. The freezer hummed. And I understood exactly none of it, except the part inside my bones that had already decided something for me. If this thing was real, it was old. If it was old, it had rules. And if it had rules, maybe I could bargain. I looked down at my hands. They were steady now. The coffee had gone cold. "Okay," I said, to nobody or to the vent or to the building itself. "Okay." Outside, the wind shifted, and the smell of sugar and rust came in strong, like the town had exhaled. I didn't quit. Don't ask me why. Maybe because rent was due again, or because leaving would have made it real. Sometimes survival looks like staying in a place you should have run from. Mr. Harlan came by the next morning, bleary-eyed and full of managerial skepticism. He poked around the freezer, kicked a wrapper, then looked at me. "Nothing," he said. "No sign of anyone getting in. You sure you didn't fall asleep and dream this?" "I've been tired before," I said. "Dreams don't leave footprints." "There are no footprints." He was right. There weren't. The floor was clean. No frost disturbed. No sugar trail. Just the same faint, sweet smell in the air, old candy and metal. "Maybe Carter's right," he said finally. "You think too much. Go home. Get sleep." He left before I could tell him Carter had called me. I didn't sleep that day either. The freezer sound kept replaying in my head. The scrape, the voice, that word, "Night watch." It wasn't the words themselves that scared me. It was the calm. The thing wasn't hostile. It was casual, comfortable, like it had said that phrase before to someone else more than once. I sat at my kitchen table, watching the condensation crawl down my coffee mug, and realized something. It hadn't hurt me. It hadn't chased me. Just wanted to eat. And for some reason, that felt worse. That night, I brought more food. Don't ask me why. Maybe I wanted proof. Maybe I wanted to control it, to make the rules instead of following them. The shift started at 10. The world outside was wrapped in sleet, every surface glossy and hard. Inside, the air was warm and metallic. The building groaned like an old lung. I placed a few things on the same table as before: cookies, an apple, 2 candy bars. Then I spoke out loud, feeling stupid for doing it. "You can have this," I said, voice echoing down the empty rows. "But you stay quiet. No noise tonight." Nothing moved. I waited, half expecting the vent to breathe or the lights to flicker. Instead, just the hum. That long, steady hum that hides silence like a blanket. Back in the guard room, I set the laptop on record again, the red light blinking like a pulse. And I waited. At 1 a.m., the power flickered once, twice. I grabbed my flashlight and checked the feed. The screen showed motion, just a blur, a streak of gray near the vent. Then the audio came in grainy and low. A scrape, then a soft dragging sound, then chewing. My throat went dry. I muted the speakers, but the chewing didn't stop. It wasn't from the laptop anymore. It was in the hallway. I stepped out, light trembling in my hand. The smell hit me first, sweet and stale, like something baking too long. Then I saw it. Not the creature, just the aftermath. The apple gone, the wrappers folded neatly, as if someone had cleaned up. And on the table, written in the sugar dust I hadn't noticed before, were 2 words: "Thank you." My knees nearly gave out. I backed up, shaking. "You can write now?" I whispered. A voice came from nowhere and everywhere. "Always could. You never asked." "Why me?" "You spoke," it said. "You made rule, offer, condition, terms and conditions." My words echoed back at me, chewed and rearranged. "You said quiet night," it continued. "You get quiet. I get eat." It was a trade. Simple, primitive, real. Couldn't breathe. Every law of the world had just shifted an inch, and I was the only one who'd felt it. For a week, it was silent. No power flickers. No noises. The camera showed nothing except dust and the occasional mouse shadow. Mr. Harlan stopped checking in. The crew in the day shift kept finding small bits of missing stock. Nothing big, just bags of sugar, boxes of candy bars. They blamed the forklift guys, maybe the teenagers who worked weekends. But I knew better. Kept my end. Every night, I brought a few things, laid them out like offerings at a strange altar. In return, the building stayed calm. The air was easy to breathe again. Started to feel normal. That was the mistake. One night, around 3, I woke from a half-sleep in the guard chair. Something was tapping. A soft, irregular rhythm from the hallway, like fingernails on glass. I turned off the TV, listened. Tap, pause, tap, tap. I followed the sound with the flashlight, heartbeat keeping pace. At the end of the corridor, just before the freezer door, I saw something small glint on the floor. A button. I crouched and picked it up. Metal, old, worn, like from a work uniform. Stamped with the letters CF, same as on my security patch. Then I noticed the dust. There were tracks. Not footprints, too small, too light, but as if something had crawled on all fours, dragging fingers through the dirt. The tapping stopped. The vent above me breathed once, cold air brushing my hair. And then that voice again, soft as lint. Carter made deal. Carter gone. My mouth went dry. What happened to him? Left hungry, it said. You feed. You stay. I didn't ask what that meant, because I already knew. At sunrise, I found out Old Man Carter had died 2 days ago. Heart failure, they said. Died sitting in his chair at home, remote still in hand. They said he looked peaceful. I thought about the button on the floor. I thought about how the creature had said his name like it was history. I took the day off, sat in my apartment, tried to convince myself I wasn't the next Carter. The vent above my couch rattled once, and a faint smell drifted down. Sugar and rust, faint as breath. I looked up. I fed you, I said. You got what you wanted. A whisper came, thinner than air. Want more? The next shift, I brought a whole bag. Candy, cookies, half a loaf of bread. Dumped it on the table like an apology. When I turned to leave, a voice followed. You work here. I work too. Watch together. I stopped. What are you watching? The silence stretched too long. Then, doors. The word echoed around the freezer, not like sound but like a vibration. Every door in that corridor seemed to sigh, metal flexing, hinges twitching. You open wrong one, it murmured. Can't close. Which door? I asked. Yours. And the light above me flickered. That night, I dreamed of the freezer door, standing open into nothing but black wind. Inside, rows of shapes, gray, thin, folded like blankets. Each had eyes. Each was waiting. When I woke, my phone buzzed. A new message from an unknown number. No text, just a photo. The security feed. My guard room. And behind my chair, the faint outline of someone crouched. Too thin to be human. Too patient to be a shadow. By then, I stopped pretending I could fix anything. I just wanted out. I started scanning job boards, left voicemails, filled out applications at diners and warehouses. But every time I typed my name, Eli Marsh, the computer froze. Every browser, every form. My name would vanish letter by letter, erased as I watched. When I tried to type something else, one word appeared on the screen instead. Stay. The monitor blinked, and my reflection stared back at me, flickering between faces. Mine, and one gray and smooth and smiling. And I knew I wasn't negotiating anymore. I was already part of the terms. There's a kind of quiet that isn't peace. It's just everything holding its breath. That's how the warehouse felt now. Still, careful, like it was listening. I'd stopped bringing offerings every night. Not out of courage, but because I wanted to believe I still had a choice. The first night I skipped, nothing happened. The second night, the power flickered. The third, I woke up at the desk with my hand in the sugar jar I kept for coffee. Sugar caked on my palm, pressed into the shape of a hand that wasn't mine. After that, I didn't skip again. Daylight shifts meant pretending everything was fine. Doing okay, Marsh? Harlan asked one morning. Fine, I lied. He nodded like he knew I was lying and didn't have the energy to care. Vera, the woman who handled shipping logs, started bringing me coffee before my shift. She said I looked pale. I told her the night lights made everyone look pale. She laughed, but it sounded nervous. One night, when I walked her to her car, she hesitated before getting in. I had a dream about you, she said. You were standing in the hallway at work, but you didn't look like you. What did I look like? She shook her head. Doesn't matter. Forget it. But I didn't. The next week, things began slipping. Small things first. The smell of bleach where there shouldn't be any. Static in my earbuds even when they weren't plugged in. Then the bigger ones. My voice lagging behind when I talked. My reflection blinking a second too late. The creature wasn't showing itself anymore. It didn't have to. It had found a way in. Sometimes I'd hear it speak from vents or corners, but sometimes I'd hear it from inside my own mouth. That same tone, that slow rhythm. One night I heard it say, clear as glass, promise. I didn't know if I'd thought the word or spoken it. Promise what? I whispered. To keep quiet, it said. You break quiet, I feed. I stopped talking much after that. At work, I nodded instead of answering. At home, I unplugged the TV, threw away the radio. But quiet isn't silence. Quiet has shape. It has weight. Presses on you until you start to think maybe it's alive. The vent in my apartment started whistling again. When I moved closer, the sound changed. A word formed, stretched, distorted, but there. Hungry. I unplugged it from the wall, though I knew that didn't make sense. But sense was a currency I was running out of. I thought about leaving town. I even packed once, clothes, documents, a little cash. When I zipped the bag, the lights went out. The apartment fell black except for the glow from the window. And on the fogged glass, traced in something that looked like condensation, were words. You stay. I wiped them off with my sleeve. They came back. Slower this time, like written by a finger dragging through dust. Stay, it repeated, voice threading through the vents. My chest felt tight. My pulse stuttered. I screamed. First time I'd done it in years, and the word echoed around the room until it became laughter. The laughter wasn't mine. After that, things started changing faster. I'd catch glimpses of movement in reflections. Not figures, but postures. Like someone bending, reaching, crawling just beyond sight. At work, Vera asked again if I was okay. I told her I was fine. But when she looked at me, her eyes widened just slightly, and I knew she saw something I couldn't. Something behind me. Eli, she whispered. Your neck. I touched it. Dicky. My fingertips came back white. Sugar. I excused myself and went to the restroom. The mirror showed a faint line across my throat, like a healed cut, the kind that never really stops remembering pain. When I wiped it, it didn't go away. It deepened, pulsing faintly, like a heartbeat under the skin. I tried to record everything. My voice, the noises, the vents. I wanted proof, but every playback was silence. Even when I screamed directly into the mic, the file stayed blank. Not corrupted, empty, like the sound itself refused to be caught. That's when I understood. It wasn't just feeding on food anymore. It was feeding on sound, on words, on promises. Every time I said something I didn't mean, it grew. Every lie, every polite "I'm fine," every "sure, no problem," was a meal. And now it was always full. One morning, I found a note taped to my locker at work. No name, no handwriting I recognized. Just 3 words. Check the vent. I did. Inside was a piece of folded paper, yellowed at the edges. It looked like part of an old logbook, written in the kind of cursive people don't use anymore. The ink had bled, but I could still read parts of it. Carter said we must keep the deal simple. Noise wakes it. Silence feeds it. Don't promise anything you can't keep. Once it learns your name, it keeps it. The rest was smudged. I took the paper home and burned it over the stove. The flame flickered blue, then green, and in the hiss of the burning ink, a voice whispered, "Too late." That night I dreamed I was walking through the warehouse, Only it wasn't the warehouse. It was inside my chest. Rows of shelves made of ribs, aisles lined with breath. The air thick with that smell, sugar and rust. At the far end, on the metal table, sat something wrapped in plastic, moving slightly. I pulled the plastic back. It was me, my face, sleeping, mouth moving silently, lips forming one word over and over. Feed. I woke up biting my own tongue. Blood tasted sweet. By now I'd stopped counting days. The world outside had gone gray. Maybe it was winter. Maybe it was me. The freezer room still hummed, steady and faithful. I'd begun to think of it as a kind of church, quiet, cold, alive. I brought the usual food, set it down carefully, and whispered, "I can't keep doing this." The air rippled, subtle but real, like heat off pavement. A voice crawled out of the metal itself. "Then you stop breathing." My chest tightened. I tried to back away, but my feet felt heavy, locked to the floor. I could see my reflection in the freezer glass, my mouth moving, but the voice wasn't mine. "You keep us alive," it said. "You promised quiet." And suddenly I understood what quiet meant. Not silence, absence, the absence of me. When the shift ended, I didn't go home. I sat in my car in the parking lot until the sun rose, hands shaking, sugar still crusted under my nails. In the morning light, the factory looked harmless again. Just brick, pipes, steam. But in the reflection of the windshield, something blinked behind me. Gray, thin, waiting. I turned around. Nothing. Just the vent on the wall of the building, fluttering softly with the wind. I looked back at my reflection, smiled. And it wasn't my smile. The day I decided to end it, the cold was bone deep. Not the kind that makes you shiver, the kind that slows your thoughts, wraps around your heart like plastic. I'd been working the night shift for months, but lately, I wasn't sure which nights were real. The calls stopped. Vera quit. Mr. Harlan was on leave, and I was the only one left on payroll. That should have scared me. Instead, it felt overdue. Like the world was clearing space for the thing I'd promised. I drove to Cold Line early, before sunset, while the horizon still burned orange behind the power lines. The warehouse sat at the edge of the river, all metal bones and thin breath. When I stepped inside, I noticed the silence. Too smooth, too careful. Even the hum of the compressors had gone thin, like the building was holding its voice back. I went straight to the freezer corridor, flashlight steady, bag slung over my shoulder. Inside the bag, one last meal. Candy bars, crackers, 2 jars of sugar, peace offering. The door groaned when I opened it. Frost spidered along the seams. The smell hit me sweet, damp, wrong. I'd known it long enough to almost find it comforting. The table was still there, metal dull and clean. I emptied the bag onto it. The jars rolled slightly, as if nudged by a slow pulse of air. Then I spoke. "I'm done," I said. "This is it." My voice echoed too long. First, nothing. Then the vent exhaled, a dry gust. And from that exhale, the whisper bloomed. Gentle, curious, patient. "You stop feeding? I can't keep living like this. Then die." The voice wasn't cruel. It was matter of fact, like gravity or hunger. I turned the flashlight toward the vent. The beam hit frost, thick, uneven, alive. Behind it, movement. Something gray pushing against the metal, stretching it outward, slow as breathing. "You took Carter," I said. "You'll take me too, right?" A sound that could have been laughter. "Carter promised. Broke promise. You promised too." I backed away. "I never." The air thickened. The lights flickered once, twice, then held steady. In that moment, the frost melted and poured down the wall like tears, and something climbed out of the vent. It was smaller than I remembered, or maybe I was just seeing it clearer now. Skin like parchment soaked in cold milk, joints too sharp, movements too careful, like a marionette learning how to be alive. Its eyes weren't red anymore. They were the color of the ceiling lights, white and endless. It stood upright this time, head tilted, curious. Every breath it took sounded like air being sucked through wet sugar. "What are you?" I asked. "You," it said simply. "No. I'm quiet," it whispered, and my throat closed. No air, no sound. My body reacted before my mind did. Panic, clawing, trying to breathe. The creature tilted its head further, watching, fascinated. "You keep saying," it murmured. "You keep lying." I eat lies. I fell to my knees. The air stung like acid. My chest burned. I tried to speak, to scream, but what came out was a hiss, and sugar spilled from my mouth, thick and white, coating the floor in small crystals. The creature crouched, touching the sugar like sand, smiled. "Now you see, we don't live below, we live inside." I forced air back into my lungs, a gasp that tore something in my throat. The creature stepped back, watching me, like it was waiting to see if I'd finished dying. Then it said softly, "You can leave." "What?" I croaked. "Walk away. Don't talk. Don't promise. Don't tell. If you keep quiet, we sleep." I stared at it. The thought of freedom felt impossible. What if I break quiet? Its face folded into something that might have been a smile. Then we wake hungry again. I stumbled out into the corridor, heart slamming. Every breath scraped like broken glass. When I reached the guard room, my reflection in the small window stared back wrong. Its mouth didn't move when mine did. And when I whispered, "Help," it mouthed, "Feed." I grabbed my phone, dialed 911, then stopped before pressing the call, because I could hear it, faint, layered in the dial tone, breathing, listening. If I said a word, I'd break the quiet, and the quiet was the only thing keeping it asleep. I sat there for hours, maybe days. Outside, snow fell soft, endless, clean. Inside, the air shimmered faintly, and every now and then I'd see sugar dust swirling in the flashlight beam, floating upward like reversed snowfall. The vent behind me clicked once, then again, like someone tapping from the other side of a wall. I wanted to believe it was the compressor, but I knew better. At sunrise, I walked out. No one stopped me. No one even looked up from their cars or their phones as I passed. It was like I'd already vanished from their world. At home, I tried to sleep, but the dreams came heavy. The freezer, the table, the sugar, and behind it all, a voice whispering, softer now, almost kind, "You'll feed again. Everyone does." When I woke, my phone buzzed with a new message. No number, just coordinates, latitude, longitude, a different warehouse, a different town, a new night shift. I deleted it. I swore I'd never go back. Then I opened the fridge and froze. The milk was gone, the sugar jar half empty, and on the counter, in a small circle of spilled crystals, someone or something had written one word with a fingertip. "Thank you." It's been 6 months. I found other work, construction, daylight hours, people around. Sometimes I even laugh. But every promise feels heavier now. Every sure, every "I'll try" leaves a taste of iron on my tongue. And sometimes, when I close my eyes, I can still feel the hum of the freezer room under my ribs, steady, patient, alive. There's a vent above my bed that whistles at night. I keep telling myself it's the wind, but I leave a spoon of sugar on the sill anyway, just in case. Because the truth is, what lives below never really stays below. It waits for the next word, the next liar, the next small, harmless promise whispered into the dark. And when it comes, it'll say the same thing it said to me, the same thing it says to all of us who talk too much. Keep quiet. If this tale reached you and you want more, stay with us. Subscribe, leave a like, so you don't miss the moment when the next story knocks at your door. And write in the comments one word that clung to you tonight, because our next tale may begin for it.